speaking of potential replacements for Boris Johnson, this is not a game show. This is a job interview from hell. Boris Johnson has resigned as Prime Minister. He has resigned as leader of the Conservative Party, and thus there is a vacancy in both of these positions. And the way this works is that they are elected by members of the Conservative Party. They will decide who shall become the next Prime Minister and the next Conservative Party leader. 12 or so people are rumoured to have put their names in or have already started their campaigns to be Conservative leader. It will be a grueling process where they'll be put through their paces, they'll have their records scrutinised, they will have their future plans be put to the Conservative membership to decide who will be the next Prime Minister. Only one of them can be so we shall have a look. We will judge them by their histories, we will judge them by their futures. We will see which public school educated MP who has thrown their hat into the ring will come out on top. It will be a process that will be reported on by the media, it will be reported on by the people within the Conservative Party who have their leaks, who have their explicit agendas moving forward. Will we see someone from the right wing of the party? Will we see someone from the left wing of the party? Will we see somebody who will make the country better or worse? It shall be seen who will be the next Prime Minister in the Tory party leadership election coming soon this autumn, whilst we wait for the resignation of Boris Johnson to be complete. This is the Tory party leadership election. Welcome. Let's meet the candidates. Right. First on the list is a Mr. Rishi Sunak. Let's have a look and see what is up for grabs for him. Now, he has been in the Chancellor for however long, so we shall have a look into his record as Chancellor, which is interesting, because I think the first thing that he kind of said on his kind of pitch for being leader was that he was going to fix the economy, which is odd, considering that he was the person in charge of the economy for the past 3 fucking years, right? So it seems like a weird pitch to start with. It's like, I blame the previous Chancellor, let's fix his mistakes when he is the previous Chancellor. Also amusing that the website is readyforrishi.com when that domain has been saved since November 2021. So clearly he's had his eye on the chop job for quite a while, and he has the most nominations so far. This is his little kind of like opening gambit video that he's put down, that he is standing to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and our Prime Minister. Let's have a watch and see what he brings to the table theoretically.
Let me tell you a story about a young woman almost a lifetime ago who boarded a plane armed with hope for a better life and the love of her family. This young woman came to Britain, where she managed to find a job, but it took her nearly a year to save enough money for her husband and children to follow her. One of those children was my mother, age 15.
It was odd at someone who is trying to push like a fucking authoritarian immigration policy, who's trying to make it so it's incredibly difficult for people to get into the country by restricting the immigration, which probably, under the Priti Patel's immigration point system would have excluded. I mean, it excluded Priti Patel's own family, probably would exclude Rishi's family as well, whilst also sending people, brown people who come here as refugees out to Rwanda whilst accepting people from Ukraine. Seems a little bit odd for him to talk about the opportunities people might theoretically have when his ancestors came here with the social democratic consensus still in charge pre-Thatcher. These are people who got access to a better social safety net and a more egalitarian society with more opportunities and less individualistic society. Yeah, it's really weird for him to have come here and climbed the ladder, only for him to tear it back down again. Yeah, it must be some kind of just world fallacy that they're the good deserving ones, but all of the rest of them are the kind of people in the rat race, basically.
My mum studied hard and got the qualifications to become a pharmacist. She met my dad, an NHS GP, and they settled in Southampton.
Yeah, and then I wonder where they got these skills from. Was it the free university that they got?
Their story didn't end there, but that is where my story began. Family is everything to me, and my family gave me opportunities they could only dream of. But it was Britain.
But it was also the power of the social democratic state that we had at the time.
Our country that gave them and millions like them the chance of a better future.
Oh, right, okay. Yes, and
I
that Britain doesn't exist anymore because neoliberals like you fucking destroyed it, Rishi.
Into politics because I want everyone in this country to have those same opportunities. To be
Then stop destroying the fucking state. Jesus Christ, Rishi.
able to give their children a better future. Our country faces huge challenges, the most serious for a generation. And the decisions we make today will decide whether the next generation of British people
Yeah, it's always the history of his long lost relatives coming here as immigrants during the social democratic period, and it's never about his time at Goldman Sachs. It's never about his time at Deutsche Bank, right? Or is that Sajid Javid? Let me remind myself before I tell heinous lies in front of you. Imagine saying your dad was a GP for the NHS and then spending your time literally trying to demolish the NHS. Yeah, exactly. Which one was he? Business career. Yeah, investment bank, Goldman Sachs. Then an investment. So it was Goldman Sachs and then into a hedge fund, and then also marrying Akshata Murthy, who has huge amounts of money, right? So like, it's never about the actual kind of things that he built for himself. It's always just about the huge amounts of money that he made, just moving financial assets around rather than actually creating anything of substance for the actual country. Literally just being a fucking leech of society for huge sums of money, and then also marrying into huge amounts of wealth as well. Oh, incredible underdog story there, Rishi. 10 out of 10.
also have the chance of a better future. Do we confront this moment with honesty, seriousness, and determination? Or do we tell ourselves comforting fairy tales that might make us feel better in the moment but will leave our children worse off tomorrow?
Yes, you know what that fairy tale is? The free market. The invisible hand of the free market, mate. That's the actual fairy tale that you and your party have kind of dogmatically you subscribe to like a fucking religion since the advent of Thatcherism. You guys literally don't see any possible non-adherence to these kind of principles because again, no matter how many times it fails, no matter how many times the country gets worse because of it, they're so kind of ideologically tied to it, regardless of its failings, that it'll just keep going on forever.
Someone has to grip this moment.
He has a US green card. Like, he's so patriotic. He still has his green card. So if shit goes down the pan here, he can go over and get a fucking hedge fund banking private equity firm job in the United States and fuck off after destroying our country.
And make the right decisions. That's why I'm standing to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and your Prime Minister. I want to lead this country in the right direction. I ran the toughest department in government during the toughest times.
And left us in a fucking mess, right?
When we faced the nightmare of COVID. My values are non-negotiable. Patriotism, fairness, hard work.
Fairness? Pull the other one, mate. It's got bells on.
We've had enough of division.
I mean, he's definitely a fan of hard work, i.e. the hard work of working the country to the bone for very little or very low pay, which makes the work even harder because you have to do more of it. Like, hard work, for him, was probably sending people into fucking workhouses.
At its best is a unifying endeavour, and I have spent my career bringing people together.
Yeah. They're not non-negotiable, they're just non-existent. The value is just profit.
Because that is the only way to succeed. In the coming days and weeks, I will set out my vision for how we can build a better future for our country. I've told you a bit about my story, but I'm running to be our next Prime Minister because it's your stories that matter most. Your futures.
Which you've just destroyed. Like, you guys the Conservative Party have literally fucking taken away people's futures, taken away people's opportunities, right? So I don't know on what it's so. I understand, obviously, it's just an advert, so it's basically just kind of platitudes at this point. I wonder if there's anything on his actual website. Has he? Nope, nothing. Nothing. There's just like nothing here. Just links to his social media pages and would you like to be part of our mailing list once the campaign is live? So I guess it's early days, so we can't expect him to promise anything, but you have to expect that he's just going to be like continuation neoliberalism from Rishi, considering how he was the one trying to get Boris Johnson to spend less money when, you know, people were going through a cost of living crisis. So I'll bet any amount of money that Rishi Sunak really, really did not want to capitulate on the windfall tax, wanted to leave people open to investment, right? And really just, and that's one of the kind of schisms that you got between number 10 and number 11. It is quite the flag shagging photo, isn't it? Like Owen Jones ratioing in the response, but just came up with this video in the last couple of days, did you? And he registered for it in December and was obviously clearly prepping for releasing ship for then. So not surprising. Yeah, like she was non-dom for tax purposes because she's so patriotic that she doesn't even want to pay tax in our country. And he has a green card, so he might just fucking scarp her at the shortest notice, right? So yeah, not exactly a stunning pitch, really, is it? There was another kind of very kind of telling video about who he really is that propped up on Twitter as well. Let's see if I can find it. This is the one. This is the one that kind of, there's a real kind of summary about conservative politics in this country and the kind of opinion they have for the people that they have to look after.
I have friends who are aristocrats. I have friends who are upper class. I have friends who are, you know, working class. But I'm not working class. But
you see the fucking disdain. It's, oh, well, I'm not working class, but I'm friends with aristocrats. Like he has anyone's interests at heart apart from an incredibly fucking rich cadre of people. Right? Come on. Like, again, literally, can you please just pull my other leg? It might ring a little bit for you. What a fucking... Like, well, again, literally, this guy's 100% correct. This Taj Ali guy, he's pretty good. He's worth following. When you're so far removed from the lives of working class people, you're incapable of truly understanding the depth of the current economic crisis, let alone capable of solving it. The cost of living crisis where struggling families are having to choose between heating or eating is a daily lived reality for many in this country, and it's a reality that many in positions of power and influence simply do not share. If they did, things would be different. And that's 100% true. So I think that pretty much sums up like everything you really need to know about Rishi Sunak, who is kind of the first and the main kind of front runner for leader, considering that he had this kind of all planned for months and months and months, even before that we knew that Boris Johnson was resigning. Right? It kind of speaks wonders that he is most likely to be the front runner. But let's have a look at the next kind of candidate who put herself forward for being Prime Minister, and that is Suella Braverman. She's another one who is part of the kind of the influx of people of colour standing for Conservative leadership from the most diverse cabinet of all time, really. But it's interesting how it's always the Tories that have the diversity, because if it's a diverse Tory cabinet, it means that it's their commitment to anti-racism, despite how many racist policies they enact and the racist rhetoric within the party membership and the overall history of Islamophobia that's kind of plagued their party for, you know, decades and decades and decades, right? You can sweep that under the rug as long as you put some brown faces in your cabinet. But if Labour do the same thing, suddenly it's woke, suddenly it's virtue signalling. Whereas that criticism never gets levied at the Tories. But anyway, I digress. She announced her candidacy on Peston's show, and there's a couple of kind of choice things that will kind of tell you a lot about what she's up to and what her kind of her game plan, I guess.
Many, many priorities, but I think fundamentally we need to deliver some proper tax cuts so that people can be dealing with the cost of living challenges in a more feasible way. We need to shrink the size of the state and cut government spending so we can...
What state? What? There's no state fucking left after Thatcher. There's no state. Shrink the size of the state down to what? We're going to be minarchists now? Right? What are you going to be cutting? What more things are there to strip away from the state at this point? Surely she can only mean the NHS at this point, because the only state asset we really properly have left after everything else got sold off. Rail, mail, water, energy, British Telecom, all that kind of shit, all sold off. We have no assets left. What's she going to sell off? How much smaller can the state be?
Curb inflation. We need to solve the problem of the boats across the channel. We need to stop a foreign...
There's no problem. That's just cultural garbage, right? Or I guess the actual solution would be open, safe, legal routes for them to get across the channel, not in boats, rather than only having those channels open for Ukrainian refugees. It's strange how there's always rooms for refugees when it comes to Ukrainians. They can apply online in Calais and then just take them and then just take the Eurostar across. And then get to UK that way without becoming illegals, right? Whereas if they're brown immigrants, which she's from she's what I think it's from half Sudanese, half Mauritian. I think I know one side of her is from Mauritius. So, and she's not really kind of as attached to the kind of people who are getting sent to Rwanda or drowned in the channel than everybody else is. But even so, she must understand that this is just a fundamentally racist policy that she's completely endorsing here.
Foreign court interfering in our domestic affairs. We need to make sure the Brexit opportunities are felt for everybody in this country. And lastly, we need to get rid of all of this woke rubbish and actually...
There you go. She used the buzzword. She said woke everybody, and then everyone and all of the fucking like people who had all of their consent manufactured over this kind of phony culture war, all like watching this going, based, woke, I'm anti-woke, I hate virtue signaling, which ironically is virtue signaling from my perspective, right? Or fucking clapping like seals because she said the word that everybody hates, that she gets to fucking stoke political tensions with to be able to garner some kind of additional ability to be able to sell herself on some kind of political project, rather than actually materially making people's lives better. Let's just finish this segment and then I'll go into a bit more.
Get back to a country where describing a man and a woman in terms of biology does not mean that you're going to lose your job.
No one's losing their job for describing people in that way. People are losing jobs for being harassing, for misgendering, for making a poor working environment for trans people to be part of. Like, that's what happens with when people are losing their jobs for transphobia. It's not because they said sex was real. This is a completely manufactured lie saying that people are just getting fired for saying sex is real, when actually it's the complete opposite of that. It's people who are transphobic going in and being deliberately hostile to other trans members of staff, creating an environment that's not welcoming for other trans people, and that's the issue people are taking. It's nothing to do with people being fired for saying that describing men and women by biology. That's a load of trumped up nonsense. Anyway, let's go and have a look at her Wikipedia page and see what's up with her. I'm determined to pronounce her name Suella like Sueya, like it's paella or paella, right? That'd be funny. Just deliberately mispronouncing it. Sunak attempting to use the checkout live rent from my head. It's true, like posing with the Kia and then trying to use a contactless by tapping his credit card up against the barcode scanner was the funniest shit, right? It just shows how these people just don't live normal lives. I grew up knowing aristocrats, so I don't know how chip and pin works. Let's see where she came from. Kenya and Mauritius. Oh, okay, fair enough. Like Kenya's got a pretty Kenya and Mauritius actually have pretty strong economies, like for African countries, so it makes sense that she ended up being a Tory. Went to public school. Obviously went to public school. And what was her legal career? I should some kind of solicitor, I guess. So not exactly like the most kind of. It's not like she had some kind of career in the finance industry, which is slightly a step above people like Rishi Sunak or whatever. But even so, she's still like full on fucking like objectivist, really like incredibly right wing, both on social and economic policy as well. So she's an absolute menace. But then again, she was one who didn't understand the Brexit deal that she was trying to defend on Question Time, and there was a pretty funny moment in the House of Commons where her idiocy was called out by Emily Thornberry, who that's the wrong page. And I'm not usually a big fan of Emily Thornberry, but this was a pretty funny moment. Let's find it. Where is it? Come on, give me the video that I want. There we go, that's the one.
Mr. Speaker, and can I say, what an honour it is to be at this dispatch box facing the next Prime Minister as she waits her call from the palace. A true honour, although colleagues will have noticed in her list of leadership priorities last night, the Attorney-General had absolutely nothing to say about tackling the epidemic of crime in our country or ending the culture of law-breaking in our government, both of which have flourished under her watch.
Yeah, she's been a pretty fucking rubbish Attorney General.
What she did say last night is that we need to shrink the size of the state. So can I ask the Attorney General a very simple question? In percentage terms, what size of staffing cuts does she plan to make to the Crown Prosecution Service, and what that will mean for record backlogs that are currently facing our courts?
It's a reasonable question to ask, I guess, but like the sick burn, the Star was what was really important. The essential bravery
as MPs to fund this group, the ERG.
The European Research Group has been in existence for many, many years, actually, and its express mission is to support the government to deliver a Brexit which is reflective of the result of the referendum and which is prosperity-led and successful.
You take public money?
It is funded by public money, and it has been for many years, yeah.
How many government ministers are in it?
I'm not going to say how many government ministers are in it because it is essentially a group of members of Parliament. It's a
secret society, is it?
It's not a secret society. It's a European research group.
So why won't you say how many ministers are in it?
It's a group of MPs who are supporting
That's very funny.
The government to deliver a Brexit which works for everybody, representing all strands.
So why can't you tell us who's in it?
If
we pay for it, we ought to know who's in it.
It's a group of MPs which is committed to delivering the government's agenda.
Yeah, but who?
And supporting the government.
Sorry, you just said you take public money, therefore the public ought to know where its money is going. Who are the members?
Yeah, incredibly
It's all on the public record, and people are able to disclose their name. I've told you, and
where
I'm not
can
going
we see
to change,
the list?
That the members of the European Research Group are a group of MPs who support the government's agenda.
Yeah, we pay for the ERG and all of their stupid Brexit red lines that have caused all this Northern Ireland mess.
Delivering,
but where can we see the list of members?
The list of members is kept by the European Research Group.
So where can we see it, the people who pay for it?
It's available if necessary.
I'm asking you, therefore.
It's necessary now,
Or it's necessary. Where can I see this list?
It's available because everyone has to declare.
Okay, well, can I have it?
This is not something but I can definitely provide that. It's a list of MPs who make clear their declarations of contributions to the European Research Group. It funds a researcher who is providing research on...
A researcher providing research? Wow, Sueya, how perceptive.
On a parliamentary basis for matters to do with the European Union.
Suella, thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
That was was absolutely hysterical. I love that. Are there any other funny clips that we've got of her? Talking about Brexit, I've already talked about that previously. She defended 30 Peely. Yeah, I remember watching this.
Which is this. There is a real need for many people, and it's not a stereotype, and it's not a stigma, and it's not a slur, for all of us to learn better and smarter techniques to save money, whether that's cooking more at home or whether that's getting a meter which will regulate how much energy you're using so you know what your expenditure is.
Just take some personal responsibility. It's not the fault of the government. It's not the fault of the economic mismanagement. It's not the fault of huge amounts of years of wage stagnation, right? It's because, you not properly budgeting correctly.
Energy bills. Whether it's, as I say, accessing some of these funds which are available through your local authority. I've come across too many people now.
Yeah. I remember commenting on this. I watched the quiz question time on stream, and she was literally just like, "Well, people don't know where to find these resources that are going to help them." It's like, that's your fault. It's your government. It's your responsibility to direct people to the places that are going to make their lives better. If people don't know where they are, that's your fault for not publicising them. That's literally your job, is to tell people where they can get their help.
Who are not aware of the household
that's not acceptable.
We've doubled that to millions of pounds, hundreds of millions of pounds, which will go directly to some of the poorest people in this community who can access.
She's so fucking stupid.
Through their local authority. Not many people know about that.
I'm sorry, Suella. People at the sharp end of the cost of living crisis have already made all the changes that they can possibly make. They're already buying value brand goods. They're already buying.
Yeah, it is basically. We are living in like the thick of it universe. Where is it? Where did she go to school? Oh, she went to fucking Cambridge. Of course she went to. Of course she's another Oxbridge graduate. Spent so much. Went to literally the best university, one of the best universities in the world, and she's literally absolutely fucking like mind-manglingly stupid. Or very, or either she's either stupid or she's pretending to be stupid. She says that the British Empire was a great thing. Did great things for Mauritius, Kenya, and India. What the fuck? Empire was a force for good. Is she nuts? Oh, and she hates trans people as well. Big fan of. She's basically just full on adopting the anti-trans scare campaign. So yeah, she looks like a character to be put into the forthcoming series of who will be the next Conservative leader. What apprentice type name can we call this? I don't even know. Anyway, let's move on. Who is next upon the list? Oh, it's fucking. Oh, you know who it is. You know who it is. It is our favourite minister in Parliament. The pork market queen herself is Liz Truss. Let's have a look. Where did she even tweet about it? No, she's not even tweeted about it, but she is running. Right? She is going to be running. She's the Minister of Women and Equalities, who is like voted. I think she has like an incredibly bad record on LGBT rights. But even so, right? Let's have a look at her Wikipedia page and find out her history, because I know that she's done like speeches for the Heritage Foundation. She's apparently incredibly. She did the speech that was basically incredibly embarrassing. There were people even talked about it previously. She's another person who went to Oxbridge, went to I think she might have actually gone to a state school. All through. What the fuck's all screw? Community school? Oh, she actually has state education, okay, but it's very true, Rosa. She is impressively stupid. But she is yet another Oxbridge graduate. Again, someone who went to Oxford, who apparently can't string sentences together. Anyway, she had like a career of complete embarrassment, right? She's a member of like what's that the think tank, the Policy Exchange, which are basically these libertarian, like anarcho-capitalist free market types, right? These free market fundamentalists that she gets kind of paid off by. Not only that, the Heritage Foundation is also like anti-abortion as well, so she's really in with a bunch of these kind of free market types. Let's have a look at some of the things that she's gone through. Indissolubly wedded to the theories of how the world should be that are impervious to arguments, facts, or experience, she was among the first ministers to put down her own department on the block in the latest spending review, volunteering massive cuts. She seemed determined to dismantle the protections that secure our quality of life, the rules and agencies defending the places and wildlife we will have. Well, I'm not surprised. Let's have a look and see what was there was some Justice Secretary, I think, was one where she did a bunch of fuck ups. Or she didn't criticize the Daily Mail and Telegraph, like the calling on the judges who tried to make it so that there was a vote on Brexit in the House of Commons, like didn't defend them against attacks that they were just they were like, was it the saboteurs, I think that the Daily Mail called them? Let me have a look. She was closely involved in the launch of a free market campaign group, Freer. I think I've heard about that one, at least again, another fucking libertarian think tank type dealie. Civil servants were reported as finding her tenure as chief secretary exhausting because of her demanding work schedule and a habit of asking officials multiplication questions at random intervals. What a fucking twat. She was speech at LSE and declared her commitment to freedom and individual liberty. She criticised regulations that get in the way of people's lives and warned that raising taxes could see the Tories crushed at the polls. In particular, she criticised ministerial colleagues who should In her view, realised that it's not macho just to demand more money, it's must tougher to demand better value and challenge the blob of vested interests within your department. I mean, what about the vested interests of capital, eh? She also joked about other ministers, including Michael Gove, berated Prime Minister Theresa May, although Truss and Gove both maintained that they were good friends. Oh, she was the one who confused Black Sea with the Sea of Azov, right? It was the Black Sea with the Baltic Sea, I think. She went to, the biggest fucking fuck up that she did is that she went to have a meeting with Sergei Lavrov prior to the Russo-Ukraine war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? And Sergei Lavrov, after she acknowledged Russian sovereignty over 2 oblasts that neighboured Ukraine but were in Russia, and she said no because she's just literally done no fucking research because she's an absolute idiot. And apparently, like, what was it? Let me have a look. Yeah, she asked if recognized sovereignty over the Voronezh and Rostov regions. She mistakenly thought Lavrov was referring to areas in the Ukraine and replied that they would never recognize Russian sovereignty. What did Sergei Lavrov say? Lavrov described the discussion as turning out like the conversation of a mute and a deaf person. Yeah, like she's like completely underqualified to do anything, let alone be fucking prime minister. Former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating, who serves the International Board of China Development Bank, accused Truss of making demented comments about Chinese military aggression in the Pacific, saying that Britain suffers delusions of grandeur and relevance deprivation, which I think is incredibly funny. Yeah, that was it. She was the one who mistook the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. Oh, and she 2020. This is the speech I was mentioning. She made a speech on equality policy that said the UK was too focused on fashionable, social issues, the expense of poverty and geographical disparity. She also criticised postmodernist philosophy and Foucault for some reason. And then where was the article about this? Bonkers, Liz Truss speech pulled from government website. Rant about Foucault replaced with notes saying the content had been redacted. Parts of a controversial speech given by the cabinet minister have been pulled from the government's website. Branded bonkers by critics after the Tory claimed children in her class at school were left unable to read or write because too much time was being taken up learning about racism, sexism. Yeah, I call bullshit. Bizarre rant about Foucault. While we're talking about racism and sexism, there's too little time spent to make sure everyone can read and write. We have incredibly high levels of literacy in this country. I really don't think that for some reason teaching people about social issues is getting in the way of their arithmetic and literacy skills. These ideas have their roots in postmodernist philosophy. She's fucking Jordan Peterson. This is literally Jordan Peterson. In the school of thought, there was no space for evidence, as there was no objective view. Truth and morality are all relative. Rather than promote policies that would have been a game changer for the disenfranchised, like better education and business opportunities, there was a preference for symbolic gestures. Officials say that elements of the speech attacking the failed ideas of the left have been uploaded in error. Government resources are not supposed to be used for political campaigning, and parts of speeches that crossed into this territory are usually left off the departmental website. We are aware of the issue and now have updated the website. To suggest that calls had to cut back on reading and writing in the 80s to teach you all about the deep inequalities in our society is both absurd and deeply irresponsible. Jonathan Reynolds, the Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary, said, I also went to a not great comprehensive school in the 80s, and the idea that people were getting taught about racism rather than read right is absurd. Unless it was very specific only, I doubt this stands up at all. It's Britannia Unchained, some fucking, again, another mental free market think tank type group within Parliament. And she's another one of those people who've kind of flip-flopped on the EU, and also she was the one who decided that we should start selling arms back to Saudi Arabia, considering the Yemen conflict. So she's a nasty piece of work, right? A really fucking nasty piece of work. And again, playing all the culture wars, stuff about cancel culture and identity politics and wokeism, all that kind of shit. At least she admits that the Britons should not ignore the history of the British Empire, unlike Suella Braverman. Although I think if we're going to finish off this Liz Truss segment, we should really finish off with her greatest hits. This should be good. Look at that face! Who on earth would take that face seriously though? Who would take that seriously on like an international stage? It would be literally an international laughing stock.
In December, I'll be in Beijing, opening up new pork markets.
Pork markets! Literally the face of just like no thoughts, head empty.
Pork markets. Opening up new pork markets.
That face, literally, just like no brain.
And I will not rest until the British apple is back at the top of the tree.
How is this possible? Is this no power in our society? What the fuck happened? How did we get here? Why do we live in bizarre world? Yeah, Apple definitely got from trees quite a lot though. Yes, let's listen to the cheese speech as well. We've got to listen to that. Cheese speech in high definition.
We're growing wheat more competitively than the Canadian prairies. We're producing more varieties of cheese than the French. And we are selling tea to China. Yorkshire tea. When it comes to British food and drink, we have never had it so good. But as well as exporting our fantastic food abroad, I want to see us eating
She must have been drunk.
more
Surely.
British food here in Britain. At the moment, we import 2/3 of all of our apples. We import 9/10 of all of our pears. We import 2/3 of our cheese. That is a disgrace.
Absolutely. Share if you agree. What of this country? Don't know why I'm getting this advert, but yeah, she's a silly person, and the fact that she's like in the running and like people like Dana Davison are actually properly advocating for her is like the wildest shit. How someone this incompetent gets this high in British politics. It's very, very strange. Anyway, let's move on to some of the other contenders. Who else have we got in the running? Oh, we have Grant Shapps. Let's have a look at some funny shit from Grant Shapps, right? Because this man really is. He's not another one who really isn't kind of the brightest spark. Not to mention, right, we've just come out of like the rail strike period, right, where Grant Shapps was really in the firing line because he was not taking steps to try and avoid the strike action. He was deliberately trying to stymie the ability of the rail franchises to negotiate with the RMT, specifically to try and get strike action for political point scoring and to drive a wedge in between working people and the unions by the strike action going ahead, which amusingly failed because people were end up being really in support of the strikes regardless. Went to grammar school, so he's not quite as bad as like a public school. It's just a state school, whatever. And he went to Manchester Polytechnic, so he's not one of the Oxbridge ones. Okay, I went to Manchester Metropolitan University, so he's a bootstrapper. He's bootstrapped his way up there. Yes, he was the one who used 4 separate fake names. Let's have a look. Let me find out. There must be somewhere here in photos on Twitter. He pretended he's got like his aliases are Grant Shapps, Michael Green, Corinne Stockheath, and Sebastian Fox. So who will be running out of the? Who knows? Who knows who the apprentice candidate will be out of all of these? Grant Shapps trying to get down with the kids. Oh, this sounds incredibly fucking amusing. What did he even do? Business ventures, photocopy sales rep, web publishing business. In September 2012, Google blacklisted 19 of the Shapps business websites for violating rules on copyright infringement related to the web scraping-based traffic paymaster software sold by them. Fucking hell. He denied having used a pseudonym referencing Parliament in 2014, threatened legal action against a constituent who did it on Facebook that he had. He told Sheila Fogarty that he didn't have a second job and never a second job. However, he did admit having a second job while PM and practicing business under a pseudonym. In his admission, he stated that he had firmly denied having a second job under the name Michael Green. Shapps had offered customers a get-rich-quick scheme costing $500 and promised customers a toolkit that would earn them £20,000 in 20 days, provided they followed his instructions. In March 2015, the constituent previously threatened with legal action by Shapps threatened Shapps with reverse legal action. Fucking hell. This guy's an absolute idiot as well. Like, there's so many people who are just like substandard intelligence as part of these. Like, he's a con man. He's a literal fucking con man. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Let's watch this clip that's been posted in chat. Been trying to get down with the kids.
Okay, rolling. I want to tell you about a great offer.
Oh, he's wearing a hoodie. Oh, he's doing oh look, I'm like Zelensky. I can be down with the kids. What's up, West Side?
Coming to you. It's the Great British Rail.
What's up, my homies?
Sale, offering over 1 million advance tickets to passengers with up to a massive 50% off. Why not take a trip to Edinburgh to take in the sweeping views from Arthur's Seat? Or
it's definitely not a green screen.
If it's sea and sand that you want, well, head to Cornwall with its stretches of beautiful...
Do you not want to do another take of that where you take off the jacket a little more elegantly?
Sand and crashing waves. Or visit the Lake District, the land of dancing daffodils and full of love from Wordsworth.
They are thinking of characters.
Paradise. Or come down to London for a bit of retail therapy. You know, we've had 2 years of living life virtually. It's time to get real and visit our beautiful country.
I mean, at least he knew he was one of the ones who actually, like, sort of took the railways back into public control during COVID. So he has done at least one good thing. Let's find some videos to watch from Twitter. He's a con man. He is like literally like one of those like Gary Vaynerchuk, not Tim Robbins, that's the actor. Tony Robbins type people who did like seminars to try to like get rich quick schemes, like he's saying here. What fucking scumbag? The Guardian reported that Shapps' English Wikipedia article had been edited from his office to remove embarrassing information and correct an error. Shapps stated the only edited to make it more accurate, and he uses a sock account to remove embarrassing material from his own Wikipedia page and make largely unflattering edited articles about other politicians, including some in his own party. What the fuck? Why are these people all so fucking crooked? They're literally all just crooked as fuck. Like, he's just an idiot. What's this? Misled BBC Breakfast rules on the finding in the Russia report. Let's have a look at
the report,
about that.
As you rightly say, didn't find any evidence of interference in, for example, the EU referendum. But it's not that our intelligence agencies are not looking for interference.
Well, let's take a look at paragraph 44 of the Russia report on that. The written evidence provided to us appeared to suggest that Her Majesty's government had not seen or sought evidence of successful interference in UK democratic processes or any activity that has had a material impact on an election, for example, influencing results. And specifically on the issue of Russian interference in the EU referendum. This is what the committee who helped write the report had to say.
There has been no assessment of Russian interference in the EU referendum, and this goes back to nobody wanting to touch this issue with a 10-foot pole.
It gets worse.
There has, however, been speculation that this report was going to reveal either that Russia had interfered in or sought to influence the referendum. In the committee's view, it's worse than that. The report reveals that no one in government knew if Russia interfered in or sought to influence the referendum because they did not want to know.
As for this...
Well, to be clear, that the report came in, of course, and then the election happened, and it's taken a while, as you rightly point out, not without some controversy, for the parliamentary committee whose job it was to issue this report to be formed and then issued it.
Let's listen to Kevin Jones, a member of the ISC, the committee who helped write the report.
What shocked me is the way in which Number 10 has tried to mislead. They said that the Prime Minister only had 6 days to read this report. Not true. They then said it needed 6 weeks to get its confirmation. That's not true either. They then said it needed to go around for more work on. That's not true. And then they tried to rubbish the entire process, and that's not true either.
So lies, lies and more lies from the government. How have we allowed this to become normalised? This isn't about politics. It's about national security. It's about the integrity of our democratic processes. And this government has protected neither.
I mean, I think they just can't stop lying. They will literally lie forever. Or you're misrepresenting the salaries of RMT union members. What a surprise. Not surprised in the slightest. Like, really, who is he? Who would even support him? Does he even have many nominations yet? Oh, but Sajid Javid and Jeremy Hunt have announced leadership bids in the last hour. Well, I guess we're gonna have to cover both of them as well. Nadine Dorries is going to be appointed to the House of Lords. We're gonna have to cover that later. Let's have a look at the. Well, there's Kemi Badenoch. We're going to be having to look at her later. She's next to face my wrath. So what? So Penny Mordaunt, Steve Baker, Liz Truss. No, Steve Baker's not standing. He's supporting Liz Truss. Or he's supporting. No, he's supporting Suella Braverman. It was Ben Wallace that isn't running and is supporting Liz Truss, I believe. Tom Tugendhat, Sajid Javid, Suella Braverman. So we've still not covered. Right, we've still got to cover Penny Mordaunt. We've got to cover Tom Tugendhat, Sajid Javid, and Nadeem Zawahi, and Jeremy Hunt as well. I don't think any of these have announced against. And Kemi Badenoch. Fucking hell. There's far too many of them. Nadine Dorries and David Davis. Possibly both. It's going to be an absolute mess. Jesus Christ. Anyway, moving on. Next on the chopping block, we have Kemi Badenoch. I want to set us free by telling people the truth. And essentially what she did say, it was very similar to the kind of the Suella Braverman pitch, which is just kind of small state, how it can possibly be smaller than what it is now. I have no idea. Problems are not unique. Politics is in crisis around the world. Centre of right is out of power in many countries. And then she names America and France, run by the Democrats and Le République En Marche. They're not like centre-right parties. Like, what the fuck does centre-right even mean anymore? And people kept saying that it was supposed to. They kept trying to say that her pitch was kind of pragmatic, when it's just a bunch of kind of platitudes, really. Like, we will do the good things, but not the bad things. Strong but limited government, focus on the essentials. Lower taxes, yes, but to boost growth, productivity, governed by tight spending discipline. Basically, just means cut like austerity part 2, electric boogaloo, which is essentially what was gonna happen. And again, attacking identity politics. So I'm sure a lot of these people are gonna do. It's no surprise that the fiercest proclaimer of social justice usually believe in the power of government over the people. Do they really? I think they just believe in the power of government to be able to for the ends of utility, rather than because they believe that government should override the people for some reason. I don't know what that would mean. And the power of the bureaucrat over the individual. Bureaucrats are individuals, and they're powerful the way they are because of the power of capital. That's why they're bureaucrats. Is she fucking delusional? And a distrust of people making their own decisions in the economic sphere just as much as the social. So I do think that what she is pitching, she's pitching here in like from like the kind of Austrian economics kind of praxeology standpoint. Like she must be some kind of like ANCAP style praxeologist. Hayek type person, or I guess Mises, or von Mises is probably more likely. But at least she's trying to pull back on the online safety bill. But she's a Thomas Sowell stan. So she's like one of the worst candidates possibly, because I know for a fact that she's explicitly transphobic, because she's been on record and on secret recording saying incredibly disparaging things about trans women. And she's shown in this article that she's a fan of fucking literal like ANCAP libertarian types. This seems awful. Let's have a look at her background. University of Sussex. Father was another GP. Why are all these people who are born to people who work for the NHS trying to dismantle the fucking NHS? What the fuck's going on? I lived in both the United States and Nigeria. That's cool. Aren't she? Okay, she's like an actual bootstrapper. You know, lived in multiple different countries, worked in McDonald's whilst going to college, and then going to a state school. Okay, fair enough. Maybe and she's got like a proper degree. It's not PPE. Works with IT and as a software engineer. Right? Maybe she's like the one person out of this cadre of people who actually lived like a normal life, rather than just being born into immense wealth and privilege, then going to a public school, then going to Oxbridge. Although she'd work at a bank and also for the Spectator, so she's clearly really big into fucking right-wing politics. Steve Baker's not said he's not going to run, and he was backing Suella Braverman, I think, which is good because Steve Baker's an absolute. He wants. I mean, I guess loads of these people just kind of want to turn the UK into like the sweatshop of Europe. So I'm not exactly particularly enthused about these people. In the Black History Month debate, she opposed teaching the idea of privilege, and she's fucking talking about critical race theory, like picking up all of the culture. Another fucking culture warrior. Literally, like the worst of these, all of these worst people, like the libertarian culture warriors. Absolute fucking. I can't stand these people. Like, and that's Braverman, Truss, and Badenoch all coming in with a fucking anti-woke pitch, and both her and Truss at time had been equalities ministers, right? Let me just double check. Yeah, Minister of State for Equalities, from 14th of February 2020, right? So these are people who have opposition to equality legislation coming in working for the equality sector. Badenoch was encouraged to consider her position as equalities minister after the decision by government not to ban conversion therapy. I'm not fucking surprised. She mocked gay marriage in this leaked speech as well, and also said shit about trans women. Oh, and her partner works for fucking Deutsche Bank. Okay, fair enough. It's not all just it's not all bootstraps. It's also just being married to incredibly fucking rich people. I don't think Priti Patel is running. It's not. Doesn't look like she has. I don't think she has to get the nominations as well. So I'm not sure whether she'd win or not. But anyway, this Kemi person seems like a fucking absolute fucking state. So let's move on to. I think we should really. I think we should really introduce this next character with with a compilation of people getting his name wrong on the news. Let me see if I can find. There we go. That's the one.
Well, first up after the news, we're going to be talking to Jeremy Hunt, the Culture Secretary, about And the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, is also expected to apologise.
Circumstances changed. Mr. Hunt had to rapidly...
The Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt.
The Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, says he's...
The Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, has described it.
The Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, according to the...
Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, has said the NHS front...
And that's given us Jeremy Hunt looking after the health service.
Somebody, somewhere in government, perhaps the Secretary of State for Health...
Jeremy Hunt, the Hunt...
Jeremy, I'm not going to pronounce his surname because I might mispronounce it deliberately.
There we go. We got all of them out. And they started doing it again as well. Is this one of the ones where... oh yeah, it's fucking... This one is...
You say that the man
sorry,
that you're
Derbyshire.
backing, Jeremy Hunt... I'm so sorry, Jeremy Hunt. I've never said that before in my life. It's usually men who say that, so I really, really want to apologise. I'm sorry.
That's probably the best way of introducing him right now. He was the health secretary during huge amounts of like the junior doctors thing. Let me bring up his Wikipedia page, where there was huge amounts of strikes over like contracts they were trying to force upon them, overwork them during a period in which they were drastically underfunding the health service and still are. This was a man who, when he was growing up, when he was in the start of his political career, who wrote a book about how to privatize, why we should privatize the health service, right? So him being billed as someone on the kind of left-hand side of the politics of the Conservative Party, that's absolutely fucking wild to me. That this is how fucking low that we've come. That Jeremy Hunt, rude word, Jeremy Hunt, I guess, is considered to being like on the kind of the left-hand side of the party. So a downgrade casualty maternity wars. He just fucking took a hammer, absolute hammer, to the NHS. NHS wouldn't give them a pay rise, considering all the work that they've been doing. Some agencies owned by capital are charging hospitals higher fees than others and giving false company details. Again, just people like over privatization, people being given incredibly lucrative contracts to run NHS trusts. Whole different number of foreign doctors. They literally power our health service, Jeremy. Although he is a Brexit, did Brexit here? I don't even know. I swear he said he didn't. Oh, he did. He did support remaining in the European Union in the referendum. Okay, but came out in support of actually doing the Brexit thing when there was a whole hubbub in 2017. That makes more sense. And that's a new junior doctor's contract, which increased doctors' basic pay, but extend normal hours for which they would not be paid a premium. The BMA said they would not enter renegotiations unless Trump dropped the threat to impose the contract and balance the members for industrial action. They argued the contract would include an increase in working hours and relative pay cut up to 40%. Many junior doctors said they would leave the NHS if the contract was forced through. Hunt tried reassuring the BMA no junior doctor would face a pay cut before admitting those who worked longer than 56 hours a week would face a fall in pay, but said working these long hours was unsafe. In November of that year, he would offer a basic pay increase of 11%, but still removing the compensation for longer hours. In response, the committee chair of BMA requested further details of the offer and said the increase in basic pay will be offset by changes for social hours, dividing the vital work junior doctors do in evening and weekends. 98% voted in favour of strike action. Jesus Christ, it actually went through as well. In 2016, polled as the most disliked frontline British politician. In 2016, Professor Stephen Hawking and Rob Winston called for an inquiry into claims made by Mr. Hunt regarding the NHS had sufficient funding, which Hawking saying Hunt had cherry-picked research causing a devastating breakdown of trust between government and the medical profession. Given this, Hunt's tweet after Hawking's death claiming that the physicist was a hero to him received widespread condemnation. In response to Hunt from author Guy Mankowski went viral when it stated Hawking disagreed with you so vehemently he took you to court. If he truly was a hero to you, you wouldn't have argued with him. Again, another person who likes selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, and just did nothing after the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Or at least he didn't like at least he was against the annexation of the Golan Heights. Dodgy deal with Great Western over the Virgin Cross country was the only reason why David Cameron didn't fry him. Just moving around the cabinet. He was also involved in the failed attempt during the coalition to sell B-Sky B to Murdoch to make the UK Fox News, which is owned by Vince Cable, blocked by Vince Cable rather. Yeah, that's true. I mean, again, the idea that he's just some kind of that he's on the left of the party is absolutely fucking wild to me. And the fact that he was the only other option apart from Boris Johnson, absolute nonsense. His campaign was being funded by a close associate to Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman, literally being funded by foreign monarchs to get into power, to get more kind of lucrative deals, I guess, on weapon, or to be able to get weapons sold to them. God, what an absolute piece of work he is. And just another person who went to public school and then went to Oxford. It's all just a big boys, like a big boys old boys club to these people. Jesus Christ, who else do we got? Who else do we need to look at? Oh, there's Nadeem Zawahi. Now Nadeem Zawahi actually, if anyone can claim to have had a coming from the bottom and coming to the top, this guy was an immigrant from Afghanistan. No, was from Iraq. He was a Kurd in Iraq, fled to the UK after I guess because of political persecution, which they would have had as Kurds in Iraq. So wow, he really did get from the bottom to the top. Although somehow he managed to still go to a fucking public school, despite the fact that his essentially was the child of refugees from Iraq, and then went to University College London, studied chemical engineering. Because I guess public school aside, at least he went to a normal university in Oxbridge. Although he was the one who owns YouGov, who was the one who pressured the person releasing the polls to not release ones that were too positive to Jeremy Corbyn and threatened firing them, and whilst also having the hedge funds that he's part of non-domiciled for tax purposes in Gibraltar, I believe it was at the time, whilst also having some kind of financial relationship to YouGov currently. He was a strategy officer for a petrochem company, reportedly being the second highest earning MP as of 2017, and he has a £25 million property empire. By 2021, it was reported that him and his wife owned £100 million in property, including industrial estate, 3 properties in London, a country house with stables, the ones that he got public money to pay for with expenses to heat, right? And a property in Dubai as well. And this is the guy who's now having his tax affairs investigated by HMRC. So yeah, he's a bit of a dodgy fucker as well. And again, he's said shit about kind of culture war stuff as well too. Let me have a look. Yeah, again, talking with Suella Braverman, known transphobe, about what schools can do to be nice to kids with gender dysphoria. And basically saying you can only use lose with your gender identity if no one else is in there. So yeah, he's clearly drinking like on a culture war crack juice as well. Oh, Nadine Dorries is being made a lord, thinking Sabercat. So she doesn't need to be a PM because she's going to get a fucking... Literally, Nadine Dorries is going to be a fucking lord. This fucking system is so shit. It's so bad. Oh my god. But yeah, he's another fucking... Although he doesn't seem quite as like libertarian, he seems like a kind of standard Tory neoliberal, just with culture war baggage as well. All of them have got the culture baggage. We thought we were going to be past this with Boris Johnson, but no, they all are incredibly wedded to the fucking culture war discourse. Right, let's see who else is on the list. Next up, who's next up? Let's have a look. Tom Tugendhat. I was going to edit this to make it more snappy, but we've been going for an hour looking at candidates, and there's still like 4 left to go. So I'm just going to probably upload the whole segment. If people want to fucking watch it on my channel on YouTube later on, they can feel free. Don't know whether they're going to get through all of it. He's like, apparently according to The Guardian, he's the furthest left of the people in competition for the leadership at the moment. And he is, I think it's of Austrian heritage. He's the nephew of a baron who, of course, went to a public school, although he went to Bristol. Oh no, but then did his masters at Cambridge. Oh, okay, of course, they maybe the normal university, but then after that they go and get their masters from Cambridge as well, and then goes on to Sandhurst, just like all the rest of them. The bloke looks like a talking cartoon raccoon. Although I don't think we know a lot of his kind of economic policies. Whereas he seems to most of his political career has always been about kind of defense policy, which seems to have just kind of a pretty normal opinion on defense policy, which I guess is fine. I can't see anything. Again, I just know very little about him. He gave a speech on community conservatism at the Social Market Foundation. He described his military experience withdrawn into politics, outlined several ways that government can encourage businesses to better serve communities in which they operate. What's this? The Social Market Foundation, independent public think tank. A bunch of awards. Advance the education of the public in the economic, social, and political sciences, and to champion ideas that marry a pro-market orientation with a concern for social justice. So, I mean, the concept of social market economy. Okay, so it's like Christian Democratic Union stuff. So it's nowhere near as bad as everybody else. So he seems like the least bad. It seems like the least bad candidate so far. Although he is another Remainer. Said nothing about. You said anything about trans people? Let's have a look at his account. Well, he's going to talk about trans-Siberian, probably. He's never tweeted about trans people. What about gender? Talks about like kind of gender disparities, I guess. Yeah, like equality, like gender equality on like childcare. So he seems like the least bad so far of what we've looked at. Roy Stewart is too busy trying to find his wedding ring. Yeah, Roy Stewart he's obviously a meld, right? But he's better than a bunch of these people. But he's no longer an MP. That's true. So he can't even run, and he was kicked out of the party by Boris Johnson, right? Right, who's next on the chopping block? Sajid Javid. He seems like the most kind of normal person. Like, he actually seems like a smart individual, Sajid Javid. Like, awful, obviously, but he doesn't seem like a fucking clown. He's not part of the clown show MP. He's like, Braverman and Truss and Jeremy Hunt, all that kind of, like, the actual fucking clown show MPs that have put the hat in the ring. No, Rory Stewart wasn't the one who joined Change Campaign, Change UK. I think it was it was only 3 of them, and I think they're all women who moved across to Change UK. Yeah, he went independent, that's right. So Sajid Javid seems like a more kind of like a One Nation conservative type. He's had loads and loads of different secretaries. Positions. Political positions, let's have a look. Big fucking fan of Israel. Fucking hell. And he was the one who was looking at the idea of banning BDS, right? Big kind of Thatcherite. So yeah, like a stock neoliberal, right? So he's not properly like a libertarian type. It's interesting that he doesn't have much support when he seems in line with. He seems to have like kind of a compromised position with most people within the Conservative. I don't think many people in the Conservative Party would disagree with a lot of his policy positions. a big fan. Oh, God, he's a fucking objectivist. Oh dear Lord, maybe he is really bad. Jesus Christ! Oh God, why are these people all just like the worst people in fucking society who get to these positions? Philosopher and theologian John Milbank commented, "It's extraordinarily disturbing that any mainstream politician should express any admiration for Ayn Rand. We should be concerned about someone like Sajid Javid who can now hold high office within the United Kingdom." There's been like a neocon speaker at the AEI annual conference, whose members include Dick Cheney, ooh, big fucking interventionist, fucking like imperialist as well. Oh God, what? Okay, literally, like, oh, he's so much worse than I thought he was going to be, and he was the one who just before leaving his post as health secretary, he just thought he might as well put in a piece of legislation that is going to give up the medical confidentiality of trans children to be able to delve into their medical records for cultural political gain reasons. What a fucking prick. But he does seem like, I guess it's just another one of these people who's just not stupid. He's not there because he's a fucking idiot. He's just a genuinely nasty human. I guess if you read Ayn Rand and have a big admiration for her, then you must be a fucking nasty piece of work, right? They didn't call him Dr. Evil just for his bald head. Fair enough, thinking Sabercat. He resigned twice. Like, he was so desperate for power that he resigned once because he didn't feel like he could serve under Boris Johnson, but then decided he was happy just to go there again and then resigned again. Like, he didn't think, he was just so wanting power. He was so obsessed with power that he just rejected all of his principles about what he did previously under Boris Johnson to then join up with him again. Well, he was Chancellor of the Exchequer to start with, and then he resigned over the Dominic Cummings kind of saga, I guess. Although at least he was okay with allowing some like medicinal marijuana. Used counter-terrorism powers to strip dual citizens involved with child grooming gangs. Fair enough. Rejected the cross-party one to include exclusion zone, introduce exclusion zone around abortion centres. So it's not a proportionate response. But again, he's also, he served and he's another one of those, like members of colour in the cabinet who just happily threw their weight behind fucking rancid racist policies behind like the Rwanda asylum plan and things like that. So, it is what it is. And another person to grant export licenses for weapons to Saudi Arabia as well. Of course he did. Edwin didn't really care about occupational war, seeing as how much of a big fan he is of fucking Israel. They're just all scum. They're just, none of them are good. Like Tom Tugendhat has seen like the only person in who I've read up on in what we've talked about over the last hour. Literally, Tugendhat is the only person here who doesn't seem like a reprehensible piece of shit. But I guess Tugendhat would be good because he's a backbencher. Like, he's never had any kind of explicit ties to Boris Johnson, so. They just love power and will do anything to maintain it, including cozying up with fascists. Yeah, exactly. They don't give a shit whether they have to cozy up with people who are causing the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world. Like, yeah. Javid called Momentum neo-fascists. What? Says the guy who supports Saudi Arabia. In July 2018, Javid backtracked after Jeremy Corbyn threatened legal action for saying he was a Holocaust denial, and Labour MPs accused Javid of peddling a lie and called on Theresa May to intervene. Fair enough. Javad rejected a request by the Muslim Council of Britain into the inquiry of Islamophobia, the one that Saeed Avasi said that should happen as well. And he's a Muslim himself. It sadly indicates this party has no interest in dealing with this matter with the seriousness it deserves. Literally every single fucking immigrant or person of colour in this cabinet, they just pull up the ladder and ignore everything that affects their communities because power and money is far more important to them than community. And I guess, of course, why would you... If you're a neoliberal, why would you care about community? Why would you care about community at all when everything is supposed to be individualistic? And and he's a fucking objectivist, isn't he? Of course he doesn't give a shit about people wanting to take care of each other. Yeah, Baroness Varsi criticised him for dog whistling. You should read what these people are saying because however much he dog whistles, however much he panders to the right of our party, sadly the right of our party still believe he's far too Muslim to be leader of the party. That's probably very true. John McDonnell questioned his suitability for Chancellor, citing his background in sales of collateralised debt obligations and alleged links to tax avoidance schemes. Javad held several senior executive positions in investment banking, including a role with responsibility for sale of CDOs during his time at Deutsche Bank. That's the one who was appointed with Deutsche Bank that I remember now. That operated a tax avoidance scheme that channeled bankers' bonus payments through the Cayman Islands. Of course he fucking had. What an absolute piece of work he is, right? Next. I guess we have to, the last one we really need to look at then is Penny Mordaunt. Let's have a look at her. And she's another one who went to like normal schools, like just a regular state school, and the University of Reading. So she's actually like a normal human being, right? You think it's some kind of ego thing? These feel like they're the best of their minority, so I have to make sure they're the only ones who concede or some shit. Or just world fallacy nonsense. But again, he's an objectivist, so he believes that systemic issues just don't exist. It's all just down to individuals' personal responsibilities or whatever. And so he feels like if he's succeeded, then he doesn't need to care about anybody else, because, you know, that's what objectivism is. It's just selfishness, the political ideology. The daughter of a paratrooper. Mordaunt making him a magician's assistant. That's cool. Worked in hospitals and orphanages in Irania and Agapia. Read philosophy. Public relations in various sectors. Head of youth for the Conservative Party. Head of broadcasting under party leader. The most communication specialist for a freight transport association. Head of foreign press for George W. Bush's presidential campaign. Oh dear. Director of communication for the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. Oh dear. She worked for the Bush campaign again in 2004. And became a director of a charity. So it's mixed. There's all that Bush stuff. And then obviously PR is dodgy as fuck. But, you know, she's been as part of a charity, I guess. So that's maybe something reasonable. I don't know. Being tied to the Bush campaign, literally the campaign that caused a load of fucking shit in the Middle East, as well as, you know, changing, like putting like incredible amount of authoritarian laws on the books, using executive power with Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. That's bad, right? That's really fucking bad, especially doing it one time in 2000 and then doing it again in 2004. That's pretty shit. She's a Brexiteer. Just said the people who deface war memorials should spend time with people who served in the war. Speech of the year all at the Spectator. Just voiced a recess on poultry welfare, so as to use the word cock as a forfeit for misdemeanor during a naval reserve chainer. She used the word cock 6 times and lay or laid 5 times. Following her comments, she was accused by Labour MP Kate Ho of trivialising Parliament. Well, that is memes, right? Okay. I understand that this is kind of this old boys Bullingdon Club style treat politics as a joke type dealio, but having to say cock loads of times in Parliament, I will give them a pass for that. That's actually genuinely very slightly amusing. So that's okay. I can deal with that. Modern Oxfam received 30 million government funds, had failed its moral leadership, blah, blah, blah. She replaced Amber Rudd off the Windrush scandal as Women Equalities. First men to use sign language at dispatch box. And the gender criticals fucking hate her, right? If she has, I mean, Bush campaign aside, like she has at least said that she is extremely pro-trans. I think she has a trans brother or cousin, so you can expect her to not just do a bunch of like anti-trans shit, which I guess is a very small minor thing in her favor. Again, there's not much to go on really, but you know, had a normal life when she was growing up, like state school, not Oxbridge. But there's like the Bush campaign stuff. But at least she's not. At least she's like pro-trans. Like between like if there's gonna be anybody, like her or Tugendhat so far seem like the front runners. If you're not like an absolute like extremely fucking rancid piece of shit, and that's everybody. So yeah, that is the Well, let me go through. Let me find the Apprentice soundtrack again. Anna Soubry's not a Tory MP anymore. She was one of the ones who defected to Change UK, and now is not in Parliament after running in my constituency actually, Broxtowe. She was the old MP for the seat that I am currently living in. So yeah, she now actually supports the Liberal Democrats, I believe. I don't know. Either way, she's not a Tory anymore. And even then, she really wasn't the most Tory of Tories. So yeah, let's actually play that in the correct speed. That's our potential list of candidates for the Conservative leadership election for 2022. Who will be the new Prime Minister? Who will be the Conservative leader? There's going to be 12 weeks, I guess, of discussion, of future. There's going to be hustings, there's going to be people putting the hat in the ring moving forward. We shall see. And UK search for this Prime Minister has begun.